Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you being out here again today as we mark day 44 of inaction in the Senate. We're asking Mr. Reid, please pass a bill. I'm joined by my colleagues. As you can see, we've got several new faces and some that have been here before, but I appreciate you being here, and right now I want to recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Canseco.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. Once again, here we are in front of the United States Senate, and in the steps asking Mr. Reid to do his job. You know, last year the Democrats did not pass one single regular appropriations bill through the Congress. Instead, they punted on their responsibilities. That's why we're here in April of 2011 with 6 months of the fiscal year complete, still working on last year's business. The House took care of the business in February and passed a bill to fund the government for the remainder of 2011. The House of Representatives is attempting to prevent the government from shutting down. But for 44 days, Senator Reid has ignored our request to cut spending and pass a bill to fund the government. Senator Reid's excuse for not passing the bill, well, he says that it is extreme. Given that the federal government is borrowing 40 cents out of every dollar it spends, spending the bill to our children and grandchildren, it hardly seems extreme to cut 2 cents out of every dollar. This lack of Senate action is irresponsible for the American people. Thank you. I go back.
Thank you, Mr. I want to recognize my colleague from Arkansas, Steve Womack.
Thank you, and Rick, let me just say how much I admire your leadership in putting together these gatherings. You know, the other day, the bill that I offered, 1255, was characterized as being April Fool's Day on April 1st in America. So I told somebody the other night, it made me feel more like the TV weatherman portrayed in Groundhog Day. It's the same thing over and over again. And our nation can do better. We should do better. And to continue to kick the can of this particular issue, the 2011 budget, the 2011 spending plan for the end of this fiscal year down the road is irresponsible. We must correct this. So we're begging, we're pleading with the Senate to pass something. We simply need the message that they're willing to pass something so on which that we can further discuss the future of this particular spending year. Because look, let me tell you something, people, it's pretty simple out there. For those of you that have been paying attention, we've got some very serious problems looming in our country. It is irresponsible for us to still be caught up in how we fund government in 2011. We are already into the third quarter of this fiscal year. So I admonish our friends across the Capitol to take action, to give us something on which we can discuss and pass so that this Congress can get about the business of putting America back on a path to a balanced budget and fiscal sanity. Thank you very much.
Just for a note, it costs $69 billion per week for the federal government to keep the doors open and the lights on, and we're asking for a reasonable cut. In the private sector, when times are hard, business owners routinely make cuts. 1 week's worth of expenses is not too much to ask in this environment. I'm pleased now to introduce my friend colleague from Mississippi, Steve Clough.
Thank you, Rick. Yes, I'd just like to share a little story with you. It's a matter of can we afford it, and it's a matter of setting priorities. And I just want to go back to, my son's 9 years old. When he was 5, we were shopping one day, and he says, "Daddy, I want this." And I said, "Son, we can't afford it." And then I explained to him why. So we just don't have the income for this right now, and we got to set priorities. What do you really need? Do you need this? And he said, "No, Daddy, I don't need it." That evening, Mom comes home, and she's sifting through her catalogs, Pottery Barn, Land's End, J. Crew, you know, typical catalogs. And she was saying, "Well, I'd like to get this sundress or these shoes." And out of the blue, he said, "Mama, we can't afford it." And she said, "Son, you're right. We can't afford it right now. And it's a matter of setting priorities." Well, if a 5-year-old child can get it, if his parents can get it, if the American people got it on November 2nd, and if the House Republicans and my colleagues behind me get it, then why doesn't the Senate get it? We don't know. All we're asking is let's eliminate deficit spending, let's pay down our debt and put Americans to work. If Senator Reid and the President of the United States don't want to do that for themselves, let's do it for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to recognize the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mike Kelly.
Thank you, Rick. Well, it's good to be with you today, and I will tell you this, that on November 2nd, the American people sent a very, very strong message. I'm from Northwest Pennsylvania, and I know why they sent me here. 44 days ago, we passed H.R. 1. That was an answer to what the folks sent us here for. And I will tell you right now, there must have been a mistake on November 2nd as far as the perception. The other party either didn't understand the strength of the vote that the people sent and the fact that they have the will and the stomach to get done what the Democrats will not do right now. It is totally childish, and I will tell you this. It's time to play pin the tail on the donkey. The donkey in this case will not move. It is so stubborn that it will not pass a bill. It is so childish that if we have to resort to childish games, let's pin the tail on that donkey and get the message out that it's time to do what's right. Mr. Reid, pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We're joined by one of our senior members, my colleague from Virginia, Congressman Goodlatte.
Well, thanks, Rick. I'm honored to be here with these new members who have been such a driving force towards getting government spending cut and reining in the power of this federal government, and I admire them coming here every week and calling on the United States Senate to do the same thing. All we're asking them to do is to work together to pass a continuing resolution so we can sit down and negotiate with them. We've done our job and they have never responded to that. So it is absolutely vitally important that they do it. We've got to have a continuing resolution for the rest of this year, but it's got to cut significant government spending, and they simply have not been able to produce that. Now, once we've got that done, we need to do a budget for next year, and then I think everyone here is in agreement with me. We need to have a balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution, which I have been pushing for quite some time now, but this year we're going to put it over the top. Just today, we got our 218th co-sponsor of the balanced budget amendment. That is a significant indication of how much support there is in this Congress. There are many Democrats, a lot more who will vote for it who haven't co-sponsored. We need 290 to pass it through the House. The Senate, all 47 Republican senators in the Senate are unified on this message. They want to have a vote on a balanced budget amendment this spring. We ought to do the same thing in the House. So we're going to keep pushing for this until we get it right. The American people understand and they strongly support it. It's time people around here heard the same message. Thank you.
I want to introduce the gentleman from New York, Tom Reid.
Thanks, Rick. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I join my colleagues here today because it's time for leadership in Washington, D.C. We have not heard anything from the Senate. We came here in November. We left our families, we left our businesses because we saw a clear and direct threat to our very nation, and that's the United States of America, and that is our national debt. We have taken the initial steps of putting a responsible budget before the Senate, and we've heard nothing. The Senate has shown a complete lack of leadership on this issue. It is now time, this is the call of our generation, to tackle this national debt once and for all and no longer kick the can down the road. This is just the initial exchange. Bigger and larger conversations are going to happen to tackle the $1.6 trillion of annual debt that we see coming out of this place here in Washington, D.C. We're up to the challenge. The House is standing firm. My colleagues are standing firm. We're here to do the work 24/7. Yet the Senate does not. I think it's time for the Senate to go to work and get this done for the American people so that we can have an America for generations to come. Thank you.
The next phase of the process, which Senator Reid seems to have somewhat forgotten, is the Senate is to pass this version of the bill so we can reconcile the differences in conference. We haven't gotten that far yet. And amazingly, Leader Reid seems to have forgotten everything about the process. He forgot to pass a budget resolution last year. The first time in the history of the modern budget process. Reid also forgot to pass the annual budget for the Department of Defense, the annual budget for the Department of Homeland Security, the annual budget for the Education Department. In fact, he didn't even pass a full-year budget for one single department in the entire federal government last year. Is this the Senate Majority Leader's idea of leadership? We're asking one thing to Mr. Reid: pass the bill.